Maria is easy to reduce to a simple explanation. In Silent Hill 2, she arrives already loaded with meaning. She looks familiar, but wrong. Close enough to Mary to wound James, different enough to tempt him, and strange enough that most players never really mistake her for an ordinary person. She feels deliberately designed, as if Silent Hill reached into James's grief and pulled out something to fit it perfectly. So the usual reading is simple enough. Maria is a manifestation, a tool, simply a role given form. Temptation, reflection, illusion, all folded into one woman in red. And for a lot of people, that's where her story begins and ends. But before she meets James, something strange happens. In Born from a Wish, Maria faces a choice no monster has to face. She asks a question only a person can ask. And the answer she gives changes the way we understand her, because this extra scenario does something far more interesting than simply explain what Maria is. It gives her just enough fear, memory, preference, empathy, and choice to change the question entirely. Instead of pondering what kind of monster she is, we should be asking, is she even a monster at all? On paper, Maria's role seems clear. The clue is right there in the title. She was born from a wish. Whose wish it was and what that wish meant is something we'll come back to. But for now, assuming you're already familiar with Silent Hill 2, we know Maria is tied to James. Her existence bends around him. She appears in ways that feel tailored to his guilt, his longing, his weakness, his loss. Nobody else really meets Maria as Maria. She slips around the edges of the town in a way that means she's not really just another lost soul. She's more like a response. In the main game, she's extraordinarily effective. She feels assembled from the same emotional material as James's punishment, and there's a reason for that. Why she mirrors Mary, yet never settles into her. Why she always feels slightly off or a little too perfect in the wrong ways. And there's a reason why nobody else in Silent Hill 2 interacts with Maria, why she hates bowling.
I hate bowling.
And claims Laura was too fast for her.
She was too fast for me.
Why she's always missing when James interacts with other real people in the town, like Angela, Eddie, or Laura, because she only appears as Maria as a human to James. Just as Angela sees her father and James sees Abstract Daddy as something else entirely, Maria would appear to others as something equally twisted. The town translates suffering into forms a person can't ignore, and Maria belongs to that language. But Born from a Wish complicates this almost immediately, because when Maria appears alone, before James ever enters the frame, she doesn't behave like a symbolic device waiting for its cue. She wakes up in Heaven's Night with a revolver in her hand and says,
I'm scared to die. I'm so afraid of pain.
This is such a raw way to begin a story. No mysterious question or seduction, no teasing hint about James. Just fear. Immediate, bodily fear. She wonders whether she should fight and live or let the monsters get her, but still recoils from death because she's afraid of pain. Then she says she wants to find somebody because she doesn't like being alone. This goes beyond usual limits for Silent Hill monsters. They pursue, embody, they reflect and punish. But Maria? She hesitates. Maria wonders what to do with herself. She sounds frightened in a way that feels personal. The first thing Born from a Wish gives her isn't purpose, it's vulnerability. And with that, she becomes much harder to dismiss as a mere tool of the town. What I love about Born from a Wish is how subtle it is. Team Silent never had much interest in dragging the camera up close and underlining the point for you. They trusted small details, half a line or a glance, a bit of flavor text most players step over without thinking. Maria's tragedy is built in the same manner, through effective accumulation. Spend enough time with her and she starts to feel less and less like a monster. She starts to feel more like a person. There's a dryness to her, an edge. She looks at decorative plates and dismisses them as not terribly interesting. She checks an empty cupboard and reacts with a flat little "too bad." That feels oddly specific. Even when she comments on a weapon, she does it with taste. The Chinese cleaver, for instance. It's ugly, but powerful and easy to use. completely unnecessary. And yet, these moments collectively start to form a character. And James isn't here yet. That point is so important. Sure, James may be nearby, even in town at this point, but still, there's no one to perform for here. No reason for these little preferences to exist if Maria is nothing more than a tailored act. The scenario keeps catching her in private moments, and in those moments, she still sounds like herself, separate from our doppelganger. And then the game starts letting Mary bleed through. In the child's bedroom, in the Sinclair mansion, Maria looks at a shelf of fairy tales and says she's sure she's never read them, but somehow they seem familiar. A moment later, she notices a teddy bear and says Laura would love it because she loves bears. Then stops cold. Laura? Who am I talking about? This moment here is one of the most effective and chilling details in the whole scenario because it tells us two things at once. First, a part of Mary is in there somewhere. Her memories haven't vanished entirely. They surface in unstable fragments, like half-recognized thoughts. But second, the one reacting to those memories is not simply Mary restored. Maria experiences them as interruptions, as intrusions. She feels them passing through her without fully belonging to her, so she ends up suspended in this strange middle ground. Not empty, but not whole either. Carrying traces of someone else's life, while a separate personality forms around them, it's uniquely cruel. Maria inherits purpose and emotional residue, familiarity without ownership, memory without certainty, the outline of another woman's life brushing against her own, before she's even had the chance to understand herself. Still, she keeps moving. That's the other thing that stands out. Maria never fully collapses into passivity. She's frightened, yes, but she's active, curious and searching. For another person, for another face, another voice. She keeps pushing forwards, through a town that already feels hollowed out, and her search leads her to Ernest Baldwin. Ernest is where everything begins to feel existential. Their first meeting is almost funny at first. Maria hears someone behind a door and becomes instantly persistent, even annoying. She knocks and he resists. She keeps going and there's a bit of friction there. It helps, I think, because it lets Maria feel social, slightly pushy, relieved to have found someone. She says outright that she just wants to see another human face. She's not looking for an answer or a revelation, just a person. Ernest turns out to be exactly the wrong kind of person to meet when you're already unsure of what you are. He's another figure trapped by grief, unable to let go, clinging to an impossible hope around his own Mary, his daughter Amy. And Maria, almost instinctively, responds to that grief with empathy. She apologizes for reminding him.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I reminded you.
And then she listens and tries to help.
Want me to get it for you?
Does this sound like a monster to you? She sets herself apart here from the usual language of monsters in Silent Hill. She isn't pursuing a victim, she's comforting a mourner.
Ernest, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
And then comes the line that epitomizes the entire scenario.
That's okay. I don't mind fighting for an impossible cause. Anyway, it beats just giving up and doing nothing.
It sounds like a philosophy forming in real time, not some borrowed instinct from Mary. We know Mary didn't have this kind of approach or outlook. Maria doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know why she's here. She doesn't even know whether Ernest's hope means anything. But she would rather act than surrender. She would rather move than sit in the dark and let the town consume her. This line does so much for Maria. It turns Maria from a passive mystery into someone taking a position. It's not anything heroic or grand, it's just a little stubborn. Better to reach for meaning than to rot in confusion. The later conversation with Ernest hits harder because of this. He tells her she was born in this town and asks if she believes in fate.
Do you believe in fate?
He hints at James, and at the idea that he's looking for
You. That isn't you.
In other words, Ernest gets very close to naming the truth Maria has been circling the entire time. But how she responds is what's important here. Since we already know the truth, this scene is trying to tell us something else, not repeat something we already know. And Maria doesn't simply stand there and absorb it. She pushes back. She says she's not sure God is the right word. She says she doesn't really believe in fate.
Not really.
And when Ernest starts moving towards a fuller explanation, she cuts him off.
Anyway, that's just what you think. You don't really know anything.
This line is Maria hearing a truth about herself, and instead of being pinned down by it, she resists it. Perhaps that's denial, or maybe it's fear, or maybe it's the first sign that she wants some right to define herself before the town, or James, or anyone else gets to do it for her. Whatever it is, it gives her boundaries. It makes her feel more like a consciousness defending herself. By now, Born from a Wish has already changed the emotional weight of her character. Maria is no longer just an answer to James's desire. She's becoming somebody with a perspective on her own existence. But this is a tale of two wishes. Born from one, struggling towards another. Everything in Born from a Wish narrows towards one image. Maria on the road, the revolver in her hand, the barrel against her head, then the pause. Then the gun vanishing over the wall. This scene gets flattened sometimes, treated as a simple moment of despair, weakness, or a rejection of the wish that birthed her, the rejection of James. But actually, it's doing something far more important than that. It's giving her something no monster has: choice. The reasons why she doesn't pull the trigger are irrelevant here. The simple fact that Maria even considers it, that it's even an option, is a clear indication that she's more than a monster. She's not a one-dimensional echo of James's trauma. No monster has the freedom of choice, or the fear of death, pain, and being alone, or the blind willingness to help a stranger, or opinions, beliefs, and free will. Ernest tried to pin her existence down into something as simple as fate, but Maria's rejection of that says all you need to know. Maria may be born from a wish, but here, she acts from one of her own. That's the heart of it all. Maria may be born from a wish, but she chooses to stay alive from her own wish. She chooses life without clarity, without comfort, without any promise that the road ahead will explain her. She chooses it because somewhere inside all of that fear and confusion, the instinct to go on has become hers. And the first word she says after making that choice is cruel.
James.
Maria escapes one prison only to walk into another. She pulls herself away from the emptiness of not knowing why she exists, then steps straight into a role built around pain, repetition, and death, a cycle meant to push James towards his own truth, a life that will keep narrowing around someone else's needs. Even in the so-called Maria ending, that shadow never really lifts. Her future still bends back towards Mary's illness.
You'd better do something about that cough.
Fated to die again. The town's mysterious powers may have conjured her up to fill a role, but by the time she reaches James, she's already become self-aware enough for that role to bring genuine pain. That's why Maria hits so differently for me. Lisa, Alessa, Angela, Walter. Silent Hill isn't short of tragic characters, but Maria has always carried a particularly complicated sadness, because her suffering becomes clearer the closer you look. If she's merely a manifestation, her pain would still matter to James, but it would feel more distant to us, the player. It's all symbolic and functional, simply another instrument in the town's machinery. But Born from a Wish forms her into something less simple. It gives her fear before it gives her purpose. It gives her humor, taste, curiosity, memory, and empathy. Before it gives her a part to play, it lets her comfort someone and resist being explained. Then, just before she enters the main story, it lets her make the one decision that truly belongs to her. She chooses to continue, to fight on. And that's what makes Maria more human than people often give her credit for. Not her appearance or the fact she resembles Mary, and not some technical argument about whether she counts as real in the world of the game either. It's the fact she has agency and emotions. We see her frightened, conflicted, hopeful, and alive in ways that make everything that follows much harder to watch. She doesn't simply live and die for James's story, but she's given form by trauma and given just enough to feel the shape of her own cage. And yet, she still chooses to move forwards anyway. She was born from a wish, and yet trapped from the moment she begins to form one of her own.